The fluorescent lights of Chan and Associates buzzed like dying insects, casting everything in that sickly corporate glow that made 9 p.m. feel like 3 a.m. My eyes burned from staring at translation contracts all day. My coffee had gone cold hours ago, and my phone was lit up with texts from my roommate asking when I'd be home. Never, apparently. Maya, Harrison, my supervisor, appeared at my cubicle with that nervous energy he got around anything that disrupted his perfectly scheduled day. "We need you upstairs. VIP client meeting. Translation support." I blinked at him. "It's Friday night. I'm salary, not on call. It's the Andretti account." He said it like that meant something. "They requested someone fluent in Italian. You're the only one still here. The Andretti account." I'd heard whispers about it in the break room. High-paying, secretive, the kind of client that kept the lights on in our struggling firm. The kind you didn't say no to. I grabbed my tablet and followed Harrison to the executive floor, my heels clicking against marble that cost more than my monthly rent. The silence up here was different. Thick. Expensive. The kind of quiet that came with real power. We stopped at the mahogany double doors of the main conference room. Through the frosted glass I could see shadows 5, maybe 6 figures. And I could hear voices. Raised voices. In Italian. "Il carico arriva martedì. 50 chili. Come concordato." "The shipment arrives Tuesday. 50 kilos, as agreed." My Italian was perfect. Courtesy of 2 years studying in Rome and a gift for languages that had been my only ticket out of my neighborhood, I understood every word they were saying. And what they were saying made my blood run cold. "Se Castellano pensa di poter invadir il nostro territorio." If Castellano thinks he can invade our territory. Harrison tried the door. Locked. He knocked, and the voices inside went immediately silent. A long pause. Then a voice, deep and commanding, switched to English. "We're not ready. Come back in 20 minutes. "Of course, Mr. Dante, my apologies." Harrison practically bowed to the closed door. Then he turned to me, pale and sweating. "The client needs privacy. We'll reschedule the translation support." But I'd already heard too much. Shipments, territory, kilos of something that definitely wasn't legal. The careful code switching when they realized someone was outside. This wasn't a consulting firm. This was organized crime. "Go home, Maya," Harrison said, not meeting my eyes. "Forget you came up here. I'll email you about the rescheduling." I walked back to my desk on autopilot, my hands shaking as I packed my bag. Forget? How was I supposed to forget what I'd just heard? What I'd just understood? The elevator doors opened on the lobby level, and that's when I saw him. He stood near the marble fountain, hands in the pockets of a suit that probably cost more than my car. Tall, dark-haired, with the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers or wanted posters, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes so dark they looked black in the low light. He was watching me, not casually, intentionally, like a predator that had just spotted prey. Our eyes met across the empty lobby, and he smiled, slow, knowing, dangerous. He'd been in that room. I knew it with sudden, terrifying certainty. He'd heard Harrison knock. He'd been one of those shadows discussing shipments and territory and violence in my grandmother's language. And now he knew I'd been listening. I forced myself to walk normally to the parking garage, every instinct screaming at me to run. My hands fumbled with my keys as I reached my beat-up Honda, alone in the dim concrete space. The engine turned over once, twice, then nothing, dead battery. Of course, behind me, I heard the smooth purr of an expensive engine. I turned to see a black SUV pulling up, windows tinted dark chrome gleaming under the fluorescent lights. The back door opened, and the man from the lobby stepped out. "Miss Chun," he said, his accent turning my name into something dangerous. "It seems you need a ride." "I don't need a ride." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "I'll call a cab. At this hour? In this neighborhood?" He stepped closer, and I caught the scent of him, expensive cologne, leather, and something else. something that smelled like danger and money mixed together. I don't think so. I don't even know who you are, Luca. Andretti. He extended a hand like we were at a networking event instead of a deserted parking garage at night. Head of security for Mr. Dante, and you're Maya-chan, translator, fluent in 5 languages including Italian. His smile didn't reach his eyes. You speak it very well, I hear. My stomach dropped. They'd researched me. Already. How long had I been in that elevator? 5 minutes? I didn't hear anything upstairs, I said quickly. I don't know what you think, Miss Chun. Lucas's voice remained gentle, but something in his stance changed. He wasn't blocking my path exactly, but he filled the space in a way that made running feel impossible. Mr. Dante doesn't think anything. He knows you were outside that conference room. He knows you understood what was being discussed, and he wants to ensure you get home safely. The word safely sounded like a threat wrapped in silk. And if I refuse, then I follow you home anyway to make sure nothing happens to you. He opened the SUV door wider. But this way is more comfortable. Heated seats. Good suspension. Much better than a cab that might take an hour to arrive. I looked at my dead car. At my phone with 12% battery. At the empty parking garage with its flickering lights and blind corners. At Luca, who waited with the patience of someone who knew I had no real choice. I got in the car. The interior was exactly as luxurious as I'd expected. Leather seats that probably cost more than my monthly salary. Tinted windows that turned the outside world into shadows. Another man sat in the driver's seat, silent as a statue, eyes forward. Luca slid in beside me, not close enough to touch, but close enough that I felt trapped between him and the door. Your address? He asked politely. I gave it. The SUV pulled out smoothly and we drove in silence through downtown streets that looked different through bulletproof glass. Everything felt distant, unreal, like I'd stepped into someone else's life. You seem like a smart woman, Miss Chun, Luca said as we merged onto the freeway. Smart enough to understand that sometimes we hear things we weren't meant to hear, and smart enough to know when someone is offering help instead of making demands. Is that what this is? Help. Mr. Dante takes care of people who are valuable to him. You have a rare skill set. You understand nuance, context, cultural subtleties in languages that matter to his business. He looked at me directly. That makes you valuable. And he protects valuable things. I'm not interested in whatever business. You don't have to be interested. Tonight, Luca pulled out a card as we exited toward my neighborhood. Black matte cardstock. Gold lettering. Just a name and a phone number. But he'll call you tomorrow. It would be wise to answer. The SUV stopped in front of my apartment building, a walk-up in a neighborhood that tried hard to be safe, but wasn't quite there yet. Luca got out first, opened my door, scanned the street with professional efficiency. Sleep well, Miss Chan. He pressed the card into my hand. And think about what kind of future you want. The struggling translator working late on Friday nights? Or something better? I watched the SUV disappear into the night, that black card burning in my palm like a brand. Inside my apartment, I locked the door, checked it twice, and sat on my bed staring at the gold lettering. Dante Marise. No title, no company. Just a name and a number. I spent the night staring at that card, knowing with absolute certainty that my normal life had just ended the moment I understood his language. The call came at exactly 9 a.m. I'd been awake since 6, staring at my phone like it was a bomb, drinking coffee that tasted like anxiety. When it finally rang, the screen showed unknown number, and I knew. I let it ring 3 times before answering, some pathetic attempt at control. Miss Chun. His voice was dark velvet, accented in a way that made my name sound like a caress. I hope I'm not calling too early. Who is this? A stupid question. I knew exactly who it was. Dante Marise. I believe Luca gave you my card. A pause. Did you sleep well? The question felt invasive, intimate, like he'd been in my bedroom watching me toss and turn all night. What do you want? To meet you. For coffee. There's a cafe on 5th and Morrison Bellini's, do you know it? I did. It was the kind of place where cappuccinos cost $12 and everyone spoke in hushed tones about mergers and acquisitions. I'm not interested in. Your student loans are $67,000. You work a second job on weekends doing freelance translation for legal firms. Your mother is in San Francisco recovering from her second round of chemotherapy, and her medical bills are mounting. His voice remained calm, factual, devastating. You're drowning, Maya, and you're too proud to ask for help. My hands shook. I make it my business to know about people who interest me. And you interest me very much. Another pause. 1 hour. One conversation. What do you have to lose? Everything, I thought. But I said, fine. 11 o'clock. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a view of both entrances. In daylight, he was even more devastating. Mid-30s, sharp-tailored suit in charcoal grey, dark hair swept back from a face that was all aristocratic angles and predatory focus. His hands, long-fingered and elegant, drummed an irregular rhythm against the white tablecloth. He stood when he saw me. Old-world manners from a man who was definitely not old-world safe. Maya. He said my first name like he'd earned the right to use it. Thank you for coming. I sat across from him, hyper-aware of the way his eyes tracked my every movement. You didn't give me much choice. There's always a choice. He signaled the waiter, ordered 2 cappuccinos without asking what I wanted. But some choices are smarter than others. Is that a threat? It's an observation. The coffee arrived, and he added sugar to his with precise movements. You're talented, undervalued, and struggling in a city that doesn't appreciate what you bring to the table. I'm offering you an alternative. What kind of alternative? A job, personal translator. You'd work exclusively for me. Business meetings, contract negotiations, occasional travel. He named a salary that made my vision blur. $200,000, more than triple what I made now. Full benefits. Housing stipend. And your mother's medical bills covered. I stared at him. Why? Because you understand my language. I understand Italian. That's not the same as understanding you. His smile was slow, appreciative, dangerous. Not yet. But you will. He leaned forward, and the air between us felt charged. I need someone I can trust with sensitive information. Someone smart enough to understand context and discreet enough not to repeat what they hear. Someone who isn't already embedded in my world. Someone you can control, I said. Someone I can protect. His fingers stopped drumming. The position comes with conditions. You work exclusively for me. You live where I can ensure your safety. You become mine in every way that matters professionally. The word mine hung between us like a promise and a threat. And if I say no, then you go back to your life, your debts, your dying mother, your Friday nights in empty offices. His dark eyes held mine. But we both know you won't say no, Maya, because you're drowning, and I'm offering you air. He was right, and I hated him for it. When do I start? His smile was triumphant. Tomorrow. I'll have Luca collect you at 9. The apartment was on the top floor of a building in the financial district, the kind of address I'd only seen in magazines. Luca handed me the key card with the same professional courtesy he'd shown in the parking garage. Like moving women into luxury prisons was just another Tuesday for him. Mr. Dante owns the building, he explained as we rode the private elevator. You'll be safe here. Security on every floor, cameras in all common areas, and his penthouse is directly above yours. Of course it was. The doors opened into a space that stole my breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, hardwood floors that gleamed like water. Furniture in blacks and golds that screamed wealth and control. The kitchen had marble countertops and appliances I didn't know how to use. The bedroom had a bed big enough for 4 people and sheets that felt like silk. Your things from your old apartment will arrive this afternoon, Luca said. Mr. Dante had them packed professionally. If anything is missing or damaged, let me know. He'd already emptied my apartment. I'd signed the contract this morning, and by noon, my entire life had been transferred to this gilded cage. Is there anything else you need? Luca asked. Privacy, I said. He smiled slightly. Of course. Mr. Dante will check in later. I spent the afternoon unpacking boxes, trying to make my cheap belongings look less pathetic in rooms that cost more per month than I used to make in a year. My books looked sad on the custom shelves. My thrift store lamp clashed with the designer furniture. At 7, there was a knock on the door. Dante stood in the hallway holding wine and takeout bags, dressed down in dark jeans and a black sweater that somehow made him look more dangerous than the suits. More real. I thought you might not have had time to shop for groceries, he said, that accent turning the mundane sentence into something intimate. May I come in? I should say no. Should establish boundaries. Instead, I stepped aside. He moved through my new space like he owned it, which technically he did. Set the food on the dining table, opened the wine with practiced efficiency, found glasses in cabinets I hadn't explored yet. Thai food, he said, unpacking containers. Luca mentioned you ordered it frequently. I hope the choice is acceptable. He'd researched my takeout habits. The thought should have creeped me out. Instead, I felt seen in a way I hadn't been in years. We ate, and the conversation flowed too easily. He asked about my childhood in San Francisco, my year in Rome, how I'd learned Mandarin and Russian. I asked careful questions about his business, and he answered with careful vagueness. Import and export, primarily. Some consulting for international clients. Investments, all the euphemisms that meant organized crime. Why do you need a personal translator? I asked. You speak perfect English. Because language is power, Maya, and I like having power in every room I enter. He refilled my wine. Besides, I prefer having someone I trust handling sensitive communications. Someone who understands nuance. Someone who understands what you're really saying when you talk about shipments and territory. His smile was sharp and approving. Exactly. I should be terrified. Should recognize this for what it was. A beautiful man in a beautiful apartment, offering beautiful lies. But when he looked at me like I was a puzzle, he was desperate to solve. A prize he'd already claimed, I felt something dangerous unfurl in my chest. Want, recognition, the seductive pull of being valuable to someone powerful. He left at midnight, kissing my hand at the door like some old-world gentleman. Sleep well, Piccola. Tomorrow we start properly. That night, I lay in silk sheets, staring at the ceiling, and heard his voice through the wall above me, speaking rapid Italian on the phone, that commanding tone discussing things I probably didn't want to understand. And I realized the cage had already locked behind me. I just didn't know if I wanted to escape. The warehouse was exactly what I expected and nothing I was prepared for. Dante picked me up at 8 in the black SUV looking like Sin in a 3-piece suit. Business meeting, he said simply. Territory negotiation. You'll translate between Italian, Russian, and English. I'd dressed professionally pencil skirt, blouse. The kind of outfit that said competent translator instead of woman living in the mafia boss's building. But when we pulled up to the industrial complex on the outskirts of the city, I realized no outfit would make me belong here. Inside, 5 men waited around a metal table scarred with burns and stains I didn't want to identify. They looked at me with varying degrees of suspicion and interest. Dante's hand settled at the small of my back, possessive, claiming. Gentlemen, he said in English, this is Miss Chun, my translator. She's here to ensure we all understand each other perfectly. The Russian, broad-shouldered, cold-eyed spoke first. Nah, she's too young. Tell him, Dante said to me, his voice mild, that my choice of translator is not his concern. I translated, keeping my tone neutral, professional. The Russian's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. What followed was 2 hours of the most terrifying negotiation I'd ever witnessed. They discussed territory like it was real estate, problems that needed permanent solutions, shipments that would arrive in containers with false manifests. The Italian faction wanted the docks. The Russians wanted a cut of the distribution network. Dante wanted control of both. Se non accetti I mea termini, Dante said, his voice dropping to something cold and final. Si I saranno conseguenze che nessuno di noi desidera. If you don't accept my terms, there will be consequences none of us want. I translated. The Russian laughed, but it wasn't a friendly sound. The voice you selected does not support this language. Please click the upper right corner to switch to another voice. In the SUV afterward, Dante turned to me. You didn't flinch. Should I have? Most people would have run. His dark eyes studied me with unsettling intensity. When that Russian reached for his gun. When they discussed the Castellano problem. When I threatened him, you didn't even blink. I've seen worse, I lied. His smile was slow, dangerous, approving. No, you haven't. But I like that you're trying to seem unshakable. He leaned closer. You did well, Maya. Very well. The praise shouldn't have warmed me. It did anyway. We're celebrating, he announced. Dinner. The restaurant was the kind of place that didn't have prices on the menu, where everyone spoke in hushed tones, and the lighting made everything look like a romantic painting. Dante's hand never left the small of my back as we walked to our table, the best one, naturally, with a view of the entire room. People stared, whispered. I watched their eyes track us, saw the recognition on their faces when they looked at Dante, saw the speculation when they looked at me. Do you understand what people think when they see you with me? He asked after we'd ordered. That I work for you? No, Piccola. His fingers found mine across the table, threading together in a way that felt far too intimate for employer and employee. They think you belong to me, that you're mine. My woman, under my protection, my breath caught. Is that what you want them to think? It's what I want them to know. His thumb stroked across my knuckles. Because it's true, we have a professional relationship. We have whatever relationship I say we have. Not angry, just certain. And I say you're mine now, Maya, whether you've fully accepted that yet or not. I should pull my hand away. Should remind him of boundaries, contracts, professional distance. Instead, I left my hand in his and let him claim me in front of everyone who was watching. The phone call came at 2 a.m. I woke to the sound of Dante's voice through the wall, sharp and urgent in Italian. Quando ci lo se? When? Who knows? Pressed my ear to the wall, my heart already racing. La traduttress. Se sanno di lei, the translator. Yes, they know about her. My blood went cold. He was still on the phone when someone knocked on my door 20 minutes later. Luca, fully dressed despite the hour, his expression grim. Pack a bag, Miss Chun. Essentials only. We're moving you what? No, I'm not. It's not a request. His tone was gentle, but immovable. There's been a threat against Mr. Dante's operations. Someone knows about you. Knows you're a vulnerability. Needs you somewhere more secure. Dante appeared behind him, wearing the same clothes from dinner, phone still in his hand. His eyes found mine, and something in them made my protests die. Maya, it's just my name, but the way he said it carried weight. I need you to trust me, please. 15 minutes later, I was in the SUV with a hastily packed bag, watching the city disappear behind us as we drove into the hills. Dante sat beside me, his thigh pressed against mine, his hand covering my trembling fingers. Where are we going? My home. My real home. He stared out the window. The apartment was temporary. This is where I actually live. The estate appeared through morning mist like something from a dream. Glass and stone, modern and cold, surrounded by walls and gates and cameras. Armed guards nodded as we passed. This wasn't a home. It was a fortress. Inside, it was beautiful and empty. High ceilings, expensive art, furniture that looked unused, the kind of place where someone existed but didn't live. The guest room was upstairs, Dante said, but his voice was hollow. Third door on the left. You'll be safe here. Safe? I'm a prisoner. You're protected. He turned to face me, and I saw exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. There's a difference. Is there? Because from where I'm standing, this looks like a very expensive cage. Then leave. The words came out harsh. I'll have Luca drive you back to the city. Back to your struggling translator life. Back to being invisible and safe and alone. You don't get to make that choice for me. I'm trying to keep you alive." His control cracked, and suddenly he was in my space, his hands gripping my arms. "Castellano's people know about you. They know you translate for me. They know you live in my building. That makes you leverage, Maya. That makes you a target. This wasn't the deal. The deal changed the moment you became part of my world." His voice dropped. "The moment you understood that meeting 3 weeks ago. I pulled you into darkness because I'm selfish enough to want something good near me. And now I have to live with the fact that I've ruined your life." I saw it then. The crack in his armor. The man beneath the monster. Guilt and fear and something that looked dangerously like desperation. "You haven't ruined anything," I whispered. "Haven't I?" He released me, turned away. "You should be in San Francisco with your mother, working a normal job, dating normal men. Instead, you're in a fortress because violent men see you as a way to hurt me." I found him an hour later in his study, drinking expensive whiskey in the dark, staring at security footage on multiple screens. My face appeared on 3 of them different angles of the guest room where I was supposed to be sleeping. He was watching me, guarding me even from a distance. "I've ruined your life," he said quietly, not turning around. "Pulled you into darkness because I wanted you near me." I crossed the room, took the glass from his hand, set it aside. "Then keep me," I said. His eyes found mine in the darkness. "Maya, keep me, Dante, in the darkness, in your fortress, in your life." My hand found his face. "I choose this. I choose you." The days blurred together in the estate. Dante taught me about his world, not the violence, but the strategy. The chess game of territory and loyalty, alliances and betrayals. He showed me financial statements for legitimate businesses that funded illegitimate ones, explained the careful balance of power that kept the city from descending into war. I taught him about normalcy, how to make coffee without the staff, how to watch old movies without checking his phone every 5 minutes, how to laugh at stupid things instead of calculating angles and threats. We fell into a rhythm. Mornings on the terrace with espresso and newspapers. Afternoons working in adjacent rooms, me translating contracts while he conducted business in Italian that I pretended not to fully understand. Evenings cooking dinner together, my grandmother's recipes that made him close his eyes and smile like he was remembering something good. "My mother used to make this," he said one night, watching me stir pasta sauce. "Before everything went wrong. Before my father's world consumed her." "Tell me about her." He was quiet for a long moment. "She was beautiful, fragile. This life broke her slowly. And my father didn't notice until it was too late." His hand covered mine on the spoon. "I won't let that happen to you. I'm not fragile. No." He turned me to face him. "You're strong. Stronger than you know. But even strong things can break if they're not protected." The rain started that night while we were finishing dinner. Not gentle rain, a storm that lashed against the glass walls and turned the world outside into darkness. Thunder rolled through the valley like artillery. I found him standing at the window an hour later, watching lightning split the sky. "Come here," he said without turning. I crossed to him, and his arm came around my waist, pulling me against his side. We stood there watching the storm, and I felt his heart beat against my shoulder, steady and strong. "I haven't felt this in years," he said quietly. "What? Peace?" His hand tightened on my hip. "You give me peace, Maya. In the middle of all this chaos and violence, you're the only thing that feels clean." I turned in his arms. "I'm not clean anymore. Not after everything I've seen, everything I've translated, everything I've chosen not to walk away from. You're clean to me." His hand found my face, fingers threading through my hair. "You're everything good I don't deserve. Then take it anyway," I whispered. "Take me." The first kiss was soft, questioning. His lips tasted like wine and rain and promises I wasn't sure he could keep. But then something shifted, and the gentleness became hunger. His hands in my hair, my back against the window, rain streaming down the glass behind me like the world was melting away. "Tell me to stop," he breathed against my mouth. I answered by pulling him closer. We barely made it to his bedroom, clothes falling away like armor we didn't need anymore. His touch was reverent and possessive all at once, mapping every inch of my skin like he was memorizing me, claiming me, branding me as his. When he finally moved inside me, his eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. "Say it," he demanded, his voice rough. "Say you're mine." "I'm yours," I gasped. "Yours, Dante, say it again. I'm yours. Completely yours." The words felt like a surrender and a victory all at once. Afterward, he held me in the darkness, our heartbeats sinking, our breathing evening out. His fingers traced patterns on my bare shoulder, possessive, protective, claiming. "You're mine now, Maya," he murmured into my hair. "Truly mine. No going back from this." "I know," I whispered against his chest, feeling the truth of it settle like a brand over my heart. "I've been yours since you first smiled at me like I was something worth keeping." The attack came on a Tuesday. I woke to silence. The wrong kind of silence. Dante's side of the bed was cold, empty. Downstairs I heard voices, urgent, tense. By the time I made it to the hallway, he was already dressed in tactical black, checking a gun with mechanical efficiency that made my stomach clench. "Stay upstairs," he ordered, not looking at me. "Luca will be outside your door. Don't come down for any reason. What's happening?" Castellano. His jaw was carved from stone. "He hit one of our warehouses." "There are casualties, our warehouses, our people." I'd stopped questioning the hour weeks ago. "Be careful," I whispered. His eyes found mine for just a moment, something raw and vulnerable flickering in their depths. Then he was gone, and I was alone with the silence and the fear and the knowledge that the man I loved was driving toward violence. The hours crawled. I sat in his study, staring at security monitors that showed nothing but empty rooms and patrolling guards. Luca brought me tea I didn't drink. The sun rose and set. Still nothing. He came home at 3 a.m. I heard the SUV first, then voices in the foyer. I ran downstairs before Luca could stop me and found Dante standing in the entryway, still in black tactical gear, blood spattered across his shirt and face. Not his blood. I knew that instantly from the way he moved, controlled, unhurt, deadly calm. Our eyes met. I watched him brace for my reaction, for fear, disgust, rejection. Instead, I crossed to him and started unbuttoning his ruined shirt. "Maya?" Upstairs, I said quietly. "Now." In his bathroom, I helped him out of the blood-stained clothes, started the shower, guided him under the hot water. He stood there, letting me wash the evidence of violence from his skin, his hands braced against the marble wall. "I killed 3 men tonight," he said finally, his voice hollow, watched the life leave their eyes. "Does that change how you see me?" I should lie, should pretend I was horrified. But we were past pretending. "I see a man who protects what's his," I said, my hands steady as I washed his hair. "I see someone who'd burn the world down for the people he loves. I see you, Dante, all of you." His control broke. He pulled me into the shower fully clothed, crushing me against him, his mouth finding mine with desperate intensity. Water poured over us both as he backed me against the wall, his hands shaking as they found my face. "You should run from me," he breathed. "You should be terrified." "I know. You should hate what I am." "I know. But you don't. Not a question." A realization that seemed to undo him completely. "No," I admitted. "God help me. I don't." We made love there in the shower, then again in his bed. With desperate intensity that felt like proving we were both alive, both present, both choosing this impossible love, despite everything it cost. Afterward, I held him while he finally let exhaustion take him. his head on my chest, my fingers in his damp hair, his arms locked around me like I was the only thing anchoring him to humanity. "I love you," he whispered into the darkness. "I love you so much it terrifies me." "I love you too," I whispered back. The truth, the whole truth, the damning truth. When I woke the next morning, he was gone. But on the nightstand sat a small black box. Inside was a ring. Simple. Elegant. Deadly serious. No proposal, no question, just a claim. I slipped it on my finger and felt the weight of forever settle around me like golden chains. The FBI agent approached me at a coffee shop 3 blocks from the estate. I'd insisted on going alone, needing an hour of normalcy, of being Maya Chun instead of Dante Moreau's woman. Luca had argued, but I'd won. 1 hour. 1 coffee shop. What could happen? Chun. The woman sat down across from me without asking, flashing a badge too quickly for me to read the name. "I'm Special Agent Reeves. I'd like to talk to you about Dante Moreau." My coffee turned to acid in my stomach. She slid a folder across the table. Crime scene photos. Surveillance images. Financial records that traced money through shell companies and offshore accounts. And photos of Dante emerging from warehouses. Meeting with known criminals. His hand on my back at that restaurant where everyone had watched us. "You seem like a smart woman, Miss Chun." Agent Reeves's voice was kind, almost sympathetic. "Stanford educated, good family. You don't belong in this world. I don't know what you think. We know you translate for him. We know you live in his estate. We know about the warehouse meeting with the Russians." She tapped the folder. "We have enough to bring him down. But we need someone on the inside. Someone who can testify to what she's seen and heard." My hands shook. "I'm just a translator. You're a witness to multiple felonies. Racketeering, money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder." Her eyes held mine. "Help us, and you walk away clean. Full immunity, witness protection if needed. Or don't, and go down with him when we bring the RICO charges." She left the folder on the table like a bomb. I could walk away, could cooperate, testify, save myself. Could return to being invisible, safe, normal, Maya Chun who'd made a terrible mistake and barely escaped. Or I could choose him. Choose the monster who held me like I was precious. Choose the darkness over the light. I pulled out my phone with trembling fingers. He answered on the first ring. "Piccola?" "We have a problem." 30 minutes later, I was back at the estate, watching Dante's controlled fury as he listened to my account. His lawyers appeared within the hour. His security team swept for surveillance. And I watched him transform from the man who held me in the shower to the crime boss who commanded an empire. "They have nothing concrete," one lawyer said. "Circumstantial at best. But if she testifies, she won't," Dante said flatly. "How do you know?" the lawyer challenged. Dante's eyes found mine across the room. "Because she loves me. And I trust her with my life." The words were a weight and a gift all at once. That night, as we prepared for potential raids, he asked me again, "Why? Why stay when you could run? When you could save yourself?" "Because leaving you would be like cutting out my own heart." I touched the ring on my finger, the claim I'd accepted. "I'd rather be damned with you than saved without you." His kiss was desperate and grateful, like I'd just given him absolution he didn't deserve. 3 days later, Agent Reeves called. The investigation was being shelved due to lack of evidence and witness. Cooperation. I didn't ask what Dante had done to make that happen. Didn't ask who he'd paid or threatened or destroyed to protect us both. Some questions were better left unspoken in marriages built on blood and loyalty, because that's what we were now, not just lovers but accomplices. Not just partners, but co-conspirators in a life that existed outside the law. And I'd chosen it with my eyes wide open. We married on a Saturday in October, when the valley was painted gold and red with autumn. The ceremony was small, private, dangerous. Just us and Luca as witness in a chapel that sat on the edge of Dante's property. The priest came from the city, nervous and well-paid, clearly aware that he was binding together two people who existed outside God's law. I wore white silk that Dante had commissioned, simple, elegant, with lace at the shoulders that reminded me of my grandmother's wedding photos. He wore black, perfectly tailored, looking like sin and salvation wrapped together. "We can still stop this," he said as we stood in the chapel entrance, his hand gripping mine almost painfully. "I can let you go, set you free. You could still have a normal life. I don't want normal." I met his dark eyes. "I want you." The ceremony was quick. The priest rushed through traditional words that felt inadequate for what we were becoming. When it was Dante's turn for vows, he ignored the script entirely. "I vow to protect you, possess you, and love you with everything I am, everything I've done, and everything I'll become." His voice was steady, absolute. "You are mine, and I am yours, until death and beyond. I will burn this world down before I let anything touch you. I will build you a kingdom of darkness and keep you safe within it. This is my promise, my claim, my forever." The priest looked uncomfortable. I didn't care. My turn. I spoke the truth that had been building in my chest for months. "I vow to stand beside you in darkness, to be your light when the world sees only monster. To choose you every day despite and because of everything you are." My voice cracked but held. "I vow to understand your language, your world, your violence, and love you through all of it. You are mine, and I am yours, until death makes us part, and love brings us back together." "You may kiss your bride," the priest said quickly, already backing toward the door. Dante's kiss was claiming and tender, public and intimate. A promise and a brand and a beginning all at once. "Mine," he whispered against my lips. "Yours," I confirmed. "Always yours." 6 months later, we settled into our forever. Our life together was luxury and danger, intimacy and isolation. Business meetings in warehouses where I translated violence into multiple languages. Quiet mornings on the terrace with espresso and his hand covering mine. Nights where he came home late, smelling of gun smoke, and buried his face in my neck like I was absolution. People asked sometimes, the few people allowed close enough to ask if I regretted it, the translator who fell for the mafia boss. Who chose the cage? Who traded freedom for protection and called it love? I told them the truth. Some loves aren't meant to be easy or safe or rational. Some loves are meant to consume you, possess you, change you into something new. Some loves are meant to be dangerous. And ours was the most dangerous love of all, but it was ours, mine and his. Built on understanding and obsession, on Italian words whispered in darkness, on the choice I made that night in the parking garage to get into his car instead of calling a cab. I'd choose this cage, this man, this dangerous love, every single time. Because some cages are made of gold and protection, and hands that hold you like you're the only thing worth keeping in this world. And I'd rather be claimed by my monster than invisible to everyone else. Forever wrapped in darkness, finding light in each other's arms. Two people who understood each other's language and chose to speak it together, no matter the cost. That was enough. It would always be enough.